Hi, everyone. Happy Sunday evening. I'm very sorry about the delay. The kiddo was sick and is sick, so I was trying to get him back to bed. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the Gwyneth Paltrow ski trial because it's what everyone has been captivated by, or at least me, because it's been wild and we did not expect Miss Paltrow to be testifying already. Let me know if you hear me and see me. I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me. Sorry. Um, can you guys hear me and see me okay? Can you just somebody give me the heads up a little bit? That would be so helpful. Um, so, well, okay, to give everybody a little bit of background, I think that I don't typically give my opinion, but I believe from what I have seen so far, I believe Gwyneth Paltrow is telling the truth. Now, it's very possible Terry Sanderson could testify tomorrow and prove me wrong, but I don't think so. So here's why I'm making this conclusion. Because I have been an attorney in Hollywood for 17 years, 15 years now. I've been practicing attorney for 17 years. And it is my job to read people. I also have training as a performance coach. And I believe she is being truthful. Tell me what you think, in the chat. I'd love to hear from you if you've been following the trial. Also, let me know where you're coming in from. I feel like I'm going to get a lot of people from Europe or Asia because it's so darn late. But let me know where you're coming in from. I'd love to hear from you. So here's the thing. Most attorneys, like myself, we will not take on a client or a case if we do not think our client is telling the truth or that we can win, right? At our core, attorneys are very competitive and we want to know that we have a case that we can win, right? And I think that people who are taking on cases do want to know that they can win the case. Okay, I know I don't typically, I know it's a good idea to always give a background as to what is happening. So let me give you guys a quick summary of the case and why Gwyneth Paltrow is being sued for a skiing accident that happened in 2016, 6 years ago, right? So now over 6 years. So Gwyneth Paltrow was skiing with her kids at Deer Valley, and Terry Sanderson, who is the plaintiff, claims that she was skiing downhill. He was in front of her and that she skied into him and, severely injured him, right? So that he had four broken ribs, bad concussion, brain injury, that he's been suffering from for the last 6 years, right? And Gwyneth Paltrow's position is that she was the one that was downhill. And, she saw, as she was skiing very slowly, she says, she saw these two skis come in between her skis. And then they sort of just kind of fell on top of each other. Her testimony was very interesting because she said that she felt like she was assaulted, which was a really interesting way to characterize it. And her attorney has used it several times as well. And I think what people don't realize is celebrities like Gwyneth Paltrow, and she is, one of the top A-list celebrities. She won an Oscar for Shakespeare in Love. She was married to Chris Martin of Coldplay. I mean, she has been in this bubble, and she was born, right, to kind of Hollywood royalty. Her parents were both actors. And her mom is the mom in Meet the Parents. And so she is, grew up in this world, having represented actors and high level people. Like everyone treats them kind of like, gives them their space, right? Because they're always being chased down by the paparazzi. So for someone to come up on her like this felt like a violation, and that's how she has described it. And so she has described it as someone like he hit the back of his body against her, right? And I'm going to play a little bit of her testimony. We can go through it a little bit. And I kind of believe her. I mean, I don't know if any of you have been watching the trial. Let me know if you guys have been following along, and tell me what you think of her testimony. I really found her to be believable. She was very kind of honest. She was likable. She was very honest. I think the plaintiff's attorney, and they sent this woman, right, who we haven't seen before. And she was like, she gave me kind of like, somebody said on a comment once, it was like, she is what you get if you want Camille Vasquez, but you ordered her on Wish. I don't know what that means. I think Wish is like a shopping site it's not very complimentary. But she was like trying to get Gwyneth Paltrow to like her and be buddies with her, and it just was not working. And and she basically asked her. She said like, okay, did you know that when you get into like a collision, you're supposed to they want to plaintiffs have been trying to play this hit and run concept, which the judge dismissed at the very beginning, because Terry Sanderson originally brought this hit and run case for $3.1 million, saying that she basically ran him over and then left, right? Like she didn't check on him. But his story is very inconsistent, right? Because he says, well, he was out cold for like 5 to 8 minutes. But yet no one from Deer Valley called anyone. I mean, it seems very skeptical. I have talked to a lot of people who have skied at Deer Valley. I've never skied there. I've gone to Sundance for the film festivals, but I've never skied there. And then they say that Deer Valley is incredibly, like, it's a luxury resort, right? It's very expensive. It's very kind of like, they're very on top of it. And so for them to think that somebody's saw someone out cold for 5 to 8 minutes and didn't call anyone, it seems a little suspicious to me. And the fact that nobody got a video of this, there is this smoking gun, right, that I want to talk about, which is this GoPro link. So that night after the accident, Terry Sanderson wrote an email to his daughters, and this is what he wrote. He wrote, "I'm famous." And then below that email was a link, was a GoPro link. What do you think it was to? I mean, if I had to guess, it was clearly, right, the footage of the accident. But yet, no one can access it. It seems to have been deleted and has disappeared. Now, on Friday, there was all this flutter, on social media that somebody on the internet, some smart detective person, not real detective, right, but who's someone who like found it, was able to access the link. So we're all waiting, right, on Monday for the defense to present their case, for them to present this potential GoPro footage that might show what really happened. So 3 years ago, Terry Sanderson brought the case, and he claimed that she hit and run, right? She hit him and then ran off. Of course, she disputes that. She was angry, right, that he kind of violated her space and then hurt her. I think she went down on her knee. She has a bad knee, and she mentioned that later that day she was injured. She took the rest of the day off. They bought a 1-day pass, but they, she lost second half of it, and the ski instructor and all that. It like, look, it was like, I think the total came out to $900, which to somebody who I think is worth $200 million, it's really not that big of a deal, but they're trying to prove damages, right? Because Gwyneth Paltrow is countersuing for $1. So 3 years ago, Terry Sanderson brought this case for $3.1 million. The judge dismissed this hit and run scenario, and then reduced it down to $300,000 for negligence and basically for his injuries. But in opening statements last Tuesday, the plaintiff side stated that they were looking for $3.2 million. And I don't know if any of you have watched the opening statements for both sides. I mean, it's painful. I mean, I was watching this on, I can't remember if it was Law and Crime or Court TV, but it was just painful. And everyone was saying, why are these lawyers so bad? And, and I want to explain something here. These are civil attorneys, right? In civil litigation, I would say 95% of cases settle. Like, you just don't go to trial. And I believe what happened was, and this is all speculation, right? That they try to settle this, I think. And I've heard stories that Gwyneth Paltrow has refused. He has refused. But basically, I've heard the story that she refused because when you settle, you're basically admitting fault. You're admitting guilt. This is probably why Alec Baldwin has not taken a plea bargain, because you have to say that I agree. I was wrong. I did something wrong. I admit it. And I'm taking this, lesser arrangement, right? Lesser punishment in criminal trial, or lesser amount that I have to pay in a civil trial. So these civil attorneys probably haven't been in front of a court all that often. I do think that criminal attorneys, right, like the Alec Murdaugh trial, I mean, those attorneys were, I know we all complained about them, but they were excellent compared to the attorneys in this trial. Hello, Smalls. So you asked a great question. Like, are these lawyers selected by the insurance company? When I first started watching this trial, I truly believe that these were attorneys, at least for Gwyneth, right? Hired by the insurance company, because a lot of homeowners insurance and sometimes travel insurance includes ski accidents. And I kept thinking, wow, I bet these are attorneys hired by the insurance companies, because these guys just like Owens, I believe his name is, the older attorney for Gwyneth Paltrow with the white hair. He's the one that's super condescending and really unlikable. I kept thinking he had to be hired from the insurance company. Why wouldn't she bring her own LA attorneys? I know they're not licensed to practice law in Utah, but basically sometimes what happens is people will bring their own attorneys and they'll work together in tandem with the local attorneys who are licensed in that jurisdiction. But she said something, the plaintiffs kept grilling her about, well, isn't it true that you're asking for more than $1 now? And it is technically true, because she's now asking for attorney's fees. And she's like, yes, I'm asking for my attorney's fees to be paid. So I think maybe these are attorneys that she's hired. So it's unclear. I mean, look, Owens is very, very annoying, but he is very effective. I mean, he is like very protective of Gwyneth, right? Like, he has asked for the cameras to not be on her when she's not speaking. So on, I think the second day, the judge ordered that only if you were speaking, then could the cameras be on you, right? Because I think what happened was, she was maybe caught like on her phone and people are saying, oh, she's so disrespectful. But imagine sitting there for 8 hours and not being able to be on your phone. She runs a very successful company, Goop. She has 2 kids. And oh my goodness, let's talk about the fact that Terry Sanderson has not been in the courtroom like 75% of the time. And the plaintiff's position, this is really annoying to me, but the plaintiff's position is, oh, well, we're going to be saying all these things that are like critical, and he doesn't take criticism easily. And we're talking about how he has changed since the accident. And basically they're saying that he has changed for the worse, right? And his daughters have testified to that effect, and he doesn't want to hear it. But here is why I believe Gwyneth. When Gwyneth Paltrow was testifying on Friday, guess who was in the courtroom? Terry Sanderson. I mean, if you guys go back and watch the testimony, and we'll watch a little bit of it together, he is creepy as heck. I mean, he's just sitting there like smirking at her. It's almost like a little like leering at her. It's really, really terrible. You know, his daughter, Polly, stated that he's like obsessed with this trial, and that if she could go back in time, she would tell him to not file this lawsuit. And then the second daughter, Shay, said that she felt like this $3 million that they're now asking for, right? They said in their opening statements now they're asking for $3.2 million is very unfair, and just it's not equivalent to his damages, basically. Hello, Swinky, Swinky, you're asking, he's allowed to just not show up. You know, I've heard from plaintiff's attorney, you know, there's attorney, his name is Peter Trago. He's a lawyer, you know, he's a great, you know, another YouTube lawyer. He is a plaintiff's attorney, so he's been giving a great breakdown on this trial, and he stated that he's never had a client not show up, like his plaintiff clients, like just not, like sometimes like on an emergency, if they have to like go do an appointment or a doctor's visit or something, sometimes they're gone for an hour out of the entire trial. But the fact that Terry Sanderson's been gone like 75% of it, and Gwyneth Paltrow has sat there the entire time, which to me speaks very highly of her. I really respect her for that. You know, I've represented very high level actors in Hollywood, and I don't know that most of them would sit there all day long, day in and day out, and kind of just like go through the monotony of a trial. I mean, the most of this trial has been from medical experts. The first week has been the plaintiff's medical experts. And I think, you know, there's enough. And I won't bore you guys with all of it. I didn't even watch all of it. I kind of just skipped through it, kind of trying to get the highlights. But basically, these medical experts have all stated that they believe that there is some mental degradation. You know, there's potentially some dementia that has happened, but it's very hard to say that it was because of this accident. Some of it could be aging. I think next week we'll probably hear from defense's medical experts who will say, you know, a lot of this is from existing medical conditions. Like he had a stroke a few years prior. He has one good eye. He has a lot of medical conditions that, of course, plaintiff side has not brought up, but I'm sure defense side will bring up next week. I think that he is just very suspicious, right? Yes, that is true. His own kids have kind of stated that they don't think, you know, that that this trial is healthy for him. I don't think that they've said the words like, oh, I don't think he should have filed. But well, Polly did say, like, if I could go back in time, I would have told him to not file. So I guess that equates, you know, that she thinks he should not have sued. And I truly believe, like, I've represented a lot of high level people. I have been, you know, a part of settlements. And I think that if Gwyneth Paltrow was at fault at all here, she would have settled out. She would have. Like, you know, and when someone asks for $3 million, a settlement means it's going to end up being less, right? Might she have settled out for $1 million? I think there probably is some insurance involved here. Insurance probably would have covered it with the 1 million. I think we have something like, you know, I think about production, you know, insurance policies when I'm doing my films. Like usually it's like a occurrence of like, you know, I think the limit is like 1 million or 3 million, you know, so insurance tends to cover up to like 1 million or 3 million. I think insurance probably would have covered this, and potentially there were settlement talks. And I feel like Sanderson wanted this to go to trial. He wanted this worldwide attention on him. And the second she comes into court to testify on Friday. He was there, right? And so it was very interesting. I don't think defense expected her to be called on Friday, because I think they said that plaintiff kept promising that they were going to rest their case on Friday. But for some reason, they called Gwyneth Paltrow before they called Terry Sanderson, which was kind of strange because you're supposed to present all of the plaintiff side, rest their case and then allow the defense side to come in. The plaintiff's attorney said on Friday, at the end of the day, Gwyneth Paltrow's son and husband are flying in on Monday. If Terry Sanderson goes first, like, what if it eats through the day and then they have to stay another day, because I believe her daughter Apple has to take time off from school. And so he was trying to figure out the scheduling, because they kind of pulled a fast one on them. They did not expect Gwyneth to testify on Friday. I think that's why actually defense side, Gwyneth's side was scrambling a little bit when they were following up on the direct cross. They were doing their cross. So it was kind of interesting how it went. So I think, well, let me know in the chat, like, should we go and like look at the opening statements a little bit, or have you guys already seen it and you don't care about that and you just want to go straight to Gwyneth Paltrow's testimony? Because I can certainly, we can look at that, because I feel like everybody it's just, that's what everybody wants to see, is her testifying to see if she's credible or not. So let me know in the chat what you would like to do, and we can go to either one. Let's see. Smalls. Yes, I do agree with you, William. It's hard to sell yourself to a jury if you're not in the courtroom. I think it makes him look really bad, to be honest. Like he just like doesn't seem respectful, right, to the court or to the jury. Like the jury is sitting there the whole time for his sake, right? This is on his behalf. And the fact that he doesn't sit there the whole time, I feel like is incredibly disrespectful. I agree. If I had to guess, I guess she rather not be doing this. It definitely seems like she's fighting for the principle of the matter as well as her reputation. I think that's true, right? Because she doesn't want to be known as this, Hollywood actor who runs down an old man and then leaves, and someone who's injured. I really think when you hear them talk about how angry she was, I think the anger is only justified if someone ran into her. I think that's the truth. SCS, I'm so curious to see him on the stand. Depending on the effects of his TBI on personality and inhibition, it might honestly be the best that he hasn't been visible so far. Yeah, I mean, from what we are hearing from the daughters, I think he's been very angry. I think like cussed out the younger daughter. I mean, so there's this younger daughter, Jenny, who was supposed to come. And then at the last minute, she pulled out and decided to not come testify. I think because her testimony is going to be damaging to Terry Sanderson, because his position is, oh, well, this accident changed me, changed who I am. I'm now no longer a nice person. I'm now no longer, loving. And then I think Jenny's position is, you've never been loving and you've never been not angry. And for some reason, she decided to not come. Everyone is saying, is there a possibility she might just show up anyway? I don't know. She might. Let's see. Like maybe the defense calls her next week as a witness. But I think you're supposed to present the witness list beforehand. So we'll see. Natalie, do you think Gwyneth's lawyer's attitude will affect the jury? I think it's possible. In the Depp v. Heard trial, which actually I know this is going to be hilarious, but I actually didn't watch that trial because I just was busy with work. And this was before I had my YouTube channel. And so I kind of missed that whole wave of things. But I did watch Camille Vasquez after the fact. And I know that she was very likable. So I think that goes towards helping their case. But at the end of the day, I think what it comes down to is, who does the jury believe? It's going to really come down to Gwyneth's testimony. And it's going to come down to Terry Sanderson's testimony. I think lawyers being kind of annoying or annoying, I think, is okay. Ineffective is worse, right? You want an effective attorney. I think Gwyneth's attorneys are effective. I wish he wasn't so condescending. He is not very likable, I think. But the other attorneys on the other side, I don't know that they're very likable either. They're a little bumbling in my opinion. Okay, so you're down for either, so we can watch. William, you're saying, can we assume that lawyers typically go through expected questions before the trial? Do you mean like, do they prep their witnesses? They're supposed to, although those the two daughters, the second daughter who testified did not seem like she was prepped at all, because she said something to the fact that she wanted to change her deposition answers, but her dad's attorneys told her not to. And it ended up being like Gwyneth's attorney was like, wait, what so are you telling me you changed your deposition or you didn't? I mean, he got kind of upset. And he even said, he's like, I'm going to be upset if you didn't give me the proper answer, or you try to change the answer without letting me know about it. So I feel like they didn't do a good job prepping their witnesses. I don't know if that's what you mean by your question. If you want to further clarify in the comments, I can maybe try to answer it a little better. I think lawyers on each side go through their own questions, but they don't present their questions to the other side beforehand. I don't know if that's what you're asking. Like, they don't give, their questions beforehand I mean, they probably did discovery and they asked each other, questions about specific items and pieces of information that they want. So that might have come through discovery, if that's what you're talking about. But, feel free to clarify and ask me, and I can try to answer it. Okay. So let's see. Let's see if we can find. So this is. Let's see if I can do this. Present, share screen. Oh, I read that they brought up Taylor Swift. Can you guys tell me what they said about Taylor Swift? I missed that part. I work during the day, so I can't watch the trial for 8 hours a day. But what did they say about Taylor Swift? I know that they said something about there was a late show interview, like it was Jimmy Kimmel or someone, where she said something to the fact that she was clumsy with her kids. And so they said, can they bring that up during trial? And I think they were going to try to exclude that, because that's not, they might try to bring that in and argue the fact that she's clumsy, right? That could be a piece of information. I don't think it's come in yet. I'm going to try to find here. We're going to try to maybe watch the opening statements together. Is this? Oh, okay, here we go. Let's see. So the judge goes
Time to time during the trial, I may have to make rulings on objections or motions made by the
jury
lawyers.
Instructions is very
Lawyers on each side of a case
have
a right to object when the other side offers evidence that the lawyer believes is not admissible. You should not think less of a lawyer or a party.
The opening statements, because I want you guys to see.
Here, we also have Kristen Van Norman and Peter Sorensen.
Was dangerous, and she knew that skiing that way
To make the decision.
Right.
Gwyneth Paltrow's neglect, her choices, and her conscious disregard for other people on the mountain all combined together to cause Terry Sanderson to suffer 4 broken ribs and permanent brain damage. We first have to talk how skiers are supposed to ski down a mountain, what the rules of safety are, and the purpose for those rules, and what happens when skiers break those rules. That way we will all be on the same page and we can get into the details of this case. Okay?
It annoys me that
all skiers know that when they are skiing down the mountain, it's their responsibility to pay attention, look downhill, and yield the right of way to the skiers below them. Because the skiers below them can't see behind them to control, as they turn left and right to control their speed, especially when there's multiple people on the mountain, it's the uphill skier's responsibility to yield the right
forward.
The only eyewitness to of the crash. Ramon skis down and stops
their
just
only
next to them.
eyewitness, right? This is
He asks
friend.
if they are okay. They say nothing. Ramon, again, is the only witness of this crash. Miss Paltrow is slow to get up. Her son's instructor, Eric Christensen, skis over from the left and stops above Sanderson and screams at Sanderson, who is not moving. What did you do? What did you do? Surprised by the crash and Christensen yelling at Sanderson, Ramon thinks, why is this Deer Valley guy screaming at Sanderson? He didn't cause this collision. Christensen doesn't let up, so Ramon steps between them. Christensen stops yelling at Sanderson. Sanderson is still not moving. They ask Sanderson if he is okay, but Sanderson only groans.
Okay, so right there, right, they ask Sanderson if he's okay. So there's like some inconsistencies there because there's this story that he was out for like 5 to 8 minutes, but yet Sanderson claims all these things happened while he was out, right? So how did he know? Like, if his position is that she ran into him and then like skied off, like how would he know that? He was unconscious, right? According to his story. And it was clear that the Deer Valley instructor, Eric Christensen, like asked him if he was okay. I think that was part of Gwyneth's testimony, was that he asked him if he was okay. And I believe, he got up and like he started skiing down. I mean, I know sometimes injuries can be delayed, but it wasn't like his injury was like catastrophic, right? If it was, like, he'd be laying on the ground, like not being able to get up, right? I think there's just like so many inconsistencies as to what he has said. And the reason why, she says that she skied off was because her kids were downhill and she was trying to get to them. I get that as a mom. Like, I want to get to my kids. I want to make sure my kids are okay. I think that she said Christensen asked him if he was okay and he said yes. And that's why she left, right? She heard that he was okay and that's why she left, right? And so that's her position, right? So let's listen to just like a little more and then we'll go to her attorney who both of these are so uncomfortable to watch. I won't make you guys watch all of it. We'll just watch like a few, like 10, 20 seconds each.
Craig Ramon turns to Paltrow. Are you okay? He asks several times. Are you okay? She doesn't say a word, and she slides a few feet down the hill. Terry moves.
See, she slides, right? Like, that's inconsistent because their story is that she bolted away. I mean, they use that word bolted so many times. It's just like, it's not a very tight or clean opening or case that they have on their side.
A little and groans. My ribs. Paltrow turns away and bolts down the mountain to the bottom. Christensen turns to Ramon. Do you realize your buddy just took out Gwyneth Paltrow? Sanderson.
And that part is weird too, right? Because she had, I believe, her helmet and seeing goggles on. I don't know that why they just focused on that, right? It was very interesting that they would have gone straight to, oh, that was Gwyneth Paltrow, right? And that's why it's very, very strange. I think, William, you're totally right. Like, skiing is an inherently risky activity. They've said it many, many times. This is why Deer Valley was dismissed from the case. This is why the instructors were dismissed. Also because they signed liability waivers. Remember my liability waiver video that I just did about skiing? I mean, I did not know this case was coming down the pipeline when I did that video. But resorts have their guests sign that, and it protects the ski resort and the instructors from liability. It does not protect a fellow skier, right, from liability from each other. That's why, neither side have been able to dismiss the case based on a liability waiver. But you're totally right? Like, skiing is inherently dangerous. I'm sure it's been drilled into their heads. The second there's an accident, there are like 10 things you have to do, right? That's why I don't think this was this catastrophic accident. Now, I don't think anyone is disputing that he had these broken ribs, but it could have been, right, that Gwyneth Paltrow was in front of him. He was behind. They kind of just like fell on top of each other, and he like fell to the side. I don't know, like, and he hit the ground. I mean, he was 69 years old at the time. I think he's like now 75. So it's possible. I mean, he said to his doctor a few weeks before this accident that he was feeling old, like he could feel like he was getting older. His body, wasn't quite how it was. And so it's possible that he just wasn't feeling that healthy anymore. He had a lot of medical issues. Like I said, he had a stroke. He only had one good eye. So it's possible that he ran into her and he didn't see her. Okay, so let's go to Gwyneth's attorney, Owens, and see his opening.
It moves more trying to.
If you're ever in Salt Lake, go to the.
The defense interrogated him on this, and he never changed his testimony. And that
children, I was. A very snowy, icy hill. So that happens. Maybe some of you have been hit. I've been hit skiing. It was disorienting. It was unhappy. I was unhappy, to say the least. But I did recognize it as an inherent risk. I mean, okay, let me move on that. So the blindfold is, I'm not going to do this because I feel sorry for someone.
Okay.
Then the scales.
So
Mr. Sanderson has brought the claim as a result
of Lady Justice, right? And it's just like, I was like, what is happening right now? Why is he talking about Lady Justice? Like, why doesn't he go straight to what happened? He goes to, I can't remember which one of them like talks about the Constitution and talks about this Lady Justice. And actually, he makes a good point. He's like, Lady Justice asks you to be blind. The blindfold is that you're supposed to weigh things objectively and neutrally and not feel sorry for the plaintiff just because you feel sorry for him, right? But I was like, what is happening right now? I mean, it just feels so amateur to me, but let's keep watching.
He has to tip the scale. Okay, the tie means plaintiff does not win. Tie goes to the defendant. So they have to tip. That's who brought the claim. That's the weighing. And then you see the sword. Now, the sword can be, I'm seeking justice, so I'm proactively fighting it. And sometimes Lady Justice is actually seen with a shield.
What are you talking about?
Let me suggest that sword is being used to defend a meritless claim, a false allegation, really kind of an offensive one, that she somehow left him an unconscious man and bolted, and it's I can tell you, we believe it to be utter BS.
Objection, Your Honor. Argument. He's supposed to present what he's going to show, not argue it.
We believe it to be. It's fair. It's fair, isn't it?
Oh, sustained. It is bordering on argument, counsel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He's suing for $3 million. Okay. I'll tell you what, I'm going to hit damages later. I want to hit the merits of the case first. So the burden of proof, I wanted to emphasize. And then instruction 11 says, don't abandon your common sense. So this can look, you're going to hear from brain experts and a lot of people to talk about this. But don't abandon your common sense. That's very important. I also want to just reference to you that you should pay attention more to the records before someone's thinking lawsuit than the records after someone's thinking lawsuit.
Objection, argument, Your Honor. This isn't open statement. This is argument.
Sustained.
You're going to see a lot.
Here's the thing that I found really interesting. From just the opening statements, I felt that the judge was very kind of pro plaintiffs because he kept sustaining their objections. I actually felt like it was super disrespectful. I mean, it's an opening. You shouldn't have so many objections. And actually, Gwyneth's attorney says it at the end. Like, there were like 13 objections during my, he said closing, but he meant his opening, right? And I kind of agree with him. I mean, opening is like storytelling time, right? As closing is. Like, you're really not supposed to object so much. I mean, these two sets of attorneys, I mean, it's just like a soap opera. I mean, I'm here for it. It's like really, really entertaining, for lack of a better word. I mean, I just like, we're used to seeing attorneys played, right, on TV in drama shows, like scripted drama shows. They're very polished, you know, they're very effective. We've seen Law and Order, but these attorneys are real life attorneys, right? I mean, it's like real life. Like, things happen, right? Like, my son got sick, so I was late to this live. I sliced my finger open right before, so I was like bleeding everywhere. It's like real life. This is what happens with real life, right? Like, it's kind of messy, and it's like, this is what we're seeing in real time. And these attorneys are really, really messy. Let's watch just like a few more seconds, and then we'll go to Gwyneth's testimony.
A lot of records about what was going on before and during, and then after. Some of the records before indicate that Terry Sanders had brain issues before. In fact, there was a prior MRI. Now, let me hit the accident, because I'd be silly to address other issues. Let me explain what was happening. And can you find that second picture? Ms. Paltrow has sentimental feelings about skiing. Her dad, who left this life too early, took her skiing as a kid at Alta. She grew up learning to ski, and those are very sentimental trips. In fact, after her dad died in his 50s, she didn't ski for a long time because it was an emotional thing for her. That is Miss Paltrow. That is Gwyneth on the right. That is her son, Moses, on the left, on the very day of this ski accident. All right, so they're going up. And this was also, so it was a sentimental issue because she had started getting back into skiing. And she did it because she wanted her kids to learn like she had. Another thing, she had a boyfriend at the time who's now her husband. And he has kids the exact same age as Gwyneth's daughter and son. Oddly, the daughter is the same age as the daughter and the son as the son. And this was really their first trip to sort of have a mixed, see if this might work. So it was a special time, and it was a lovely day. So some ski events, we worry about, is the sun in someone's eyes? No one's saying that. Is it a snowy day? No, it was a nice day. How about, was it slick run? No, it was a nice groomed run. How about, was it really complex hill? No, it wasn't the bunny hill, but Bandana, who maybe some of you know, I mean, it's a green hill.
William, I do agree with you. It was very disjointed. I was like really put off by it. But right here, he's painting a nice story, right? And I've said that in my video about Camila Vasquez and me, why I didn't want to be a litigator. But both transactional attorneys and litigators get to be storytellers, right? And litigators get to be storytellers usually during closing and openings, right? And I get to be, I usually when I'm negotiating deals with the other side with talent attorneys, we get to tell the story of like, as a studio, we want to make this film and what do they need? And so I don't know that we're storytellers. Maybe that's not quite right. I get to tell my stories now as a YouTube attorney, and that is my dream come true. So that's kind of, I think he's trying to do a good job in painting, right, what is happening that day, why this was a special day for Gwyneth, why, it was kind of the joining of her family with her boyfriend, who's her husband now. But it was not, I think, an effective opening for either sides, right? And it's fine. I think actually much more important is the closing, right? You have the trial, you have plaintiffs shows their side, defense shows their side, and then you have the closing where each attorney is supposed to kind of just pull it all together, right? And make their kind of, if you guys watched the Alec Murdaugh trial, the closings were very, very powerful. I mean, Creighton Waters did a really good job for the state, and Alec Murdaugh's attorneys almost seemed like they gave up. It was just like, it was such a terrible closing. It almost seemed like they gave up and they just believed that their client was guilty. I don't know if they were trying to throw that trial there so that they could maybe Alec could appeal, but that was a very weird closing. Let's see if we can go to, all right, let's look at Gwyneth's, okay, let's see. All right, we're going to do Gwyneth's. So this is like, they called her like immediately. It was like really sudden. They're like, we called Gwyneth Paltrow, and we're like, okay, let's take a look here.
Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give in the case now before the
learn more about post
sorry, I can't like fast forward.
and blacks?
Okay. And blue is intermediate, right? Under black?
Yes.
Okay. And the bandana run where this accident occurred, it was a green run?
Yes, to
All
my
right.
recollection.
Fantastic. So as an intermediate skier, would you say that you skied enough to at least be familiar with the rules of skiing?
I think so, yes.
All right. And what are those rules?
I think, use common sense, ski safely, be aware of other skiers around you.
Okay. What about skiing in control? Is that something that you need to do?
Yes, absolutely.
You have to give the right of way to those who are downhill.
Yes.
Do you believe
Okay.
her?
You also have certain responsibilities if you're in a collision. Is that fair?
Yes, which I learned more about post the collision.
I bet. You've probably been hit over the head with all of that information since the time, right?
Indeed.
Okay.
This attorney's trying to be like,
So let's
well,
talk about those things.
She just,
Did you know the rules at the time of the collision that if you're in a collision with someone, you need to give your name and information, contact information?
So because I was hit by Mr. Sanderson and he was at fault, I assumed that Eric, who was our ski instructor, who was there at the time, who was overseeing the event, he said, I'm going to leave all of your information. And he said, you should go ski down because my kids were waiting for me.
And I appreciate that, but my question was, did you know of the rule of skiing if you are in a collision that you need to share that information?
Your Honor, this is irrelevant. This is not part of a negligence claim.
Overruled. Go ahead.
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. At the time of the collision, were you aware of the rule that if you're in a collision, you need to share your name?
I want to point out something. I thought Gwyneth Paltrow was a very good witness, meaning she had been well prepared by her attorneys. Like you could tell, like she was very slow to answer. She would kind of look at her, like the second her attorney objected, she would just wait. And, so she's been well prepped in a way. I think that plaintiffs witnesses were not. I think Gwyneth Paltrow is very smart. She's kind of very I think she's been part of a trial before, right? So I believe in 2017, she had to testify against a stalker that's been stalking her for like 10 years, right? I mean, look, I think everybody thinks it's so glamorous to be an actor, but living in LA and sometimes seeing the paparazzi around stalking celebrities, it's really kind of awful to live that type of life where you can't even go to a coffee shop without being just swarmed by paparazzi. So my point is, she had a stalker, she had to testify. And I think there from what I had heard in my research, she was very professional and did a really good job too as a witness. And I thought she was a really good witness. I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, do you feel like she is a trustworthy and honest, witness? Do you believe her?
Name your contact information with the person that you're involved in a collision with.
I don't think I was aware of the rule.
Okay. Were you aware that there is kind of a rule of common decency to do that?
I would not have left the scene without leaving my information, and my information was left.
Did you provide that information?
No, Eric Christensen, who was the ski instructor with us, said he would leave all the information.
You don't know if he did or did not, though, do you? You weren't there when he did.
Well, subsequently, I know that he did.
I'm not asking that. I'm asking, when you were there at the collision, you didn't ensure that it was given. You weren't there when it was given.
I was not there when it was given.
All right. And it's also, I think you even admitted in your deposition that it's the rule of common decency to make sure that everybody's okay, exchange information, and to follow those skiing rules. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about that day after I get a drink.
Okay. I'll have one as well.
Do you have one? Oh, we have some.
I do. Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Just trying to be very friendly. And oh, is that her mom?
So I just want to kind of set the stage. You're skiing that day. My understanding, it was a nice conditions, beautiful day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Sorry. And Deer Valley, we know that Deer Valley is always immaculately groomed. Good conditions on the slopes.
Good conditions.
All right. You were skiing that day with your daughter, Apple, correct?
Yes.
Moses.
Mm-hmm. My son.
And Brad Falchuk, who was your boyfriend at the time, now current husband.
Correct.
All right. And his 2 children.
That's right.
Right. And his kids were the same approximate age as yours on the day of the ski collision.
They all remain the same age.
That's a
As each other.
very good point.
We're like the Brady Bunch. Girls are the same age, boys are the same age.
All right. And back then it was 12 and 9?
11 and 9.
11 and 9. All right. Fantastic. And the day of the collision, I think you had been to Deer Valley twice prior to that
I believe so.
Okay.
Okay. By the way, I know people at the beginning said, "Oh, she has like a weird like inability to emote or be expressive." I do think maybe, just maybe, right? Like it is more common than not in Hollywood, because Hollywood is very harsh on women, that she probably might maybe have some, Botox. And so maybe that's why she can't emote as well. Like, so I just feel like I wish people would be a little more kind to her. I mean, I don't know, but I feel like she's trying to smile and maybe it just looks like a smirk. I mean, later on, I think if we pan to Terry Sanderson, he is smirking and it's like a very, very leery smirk. It's actually quite creepy. Let's see. We'll fast forward a little bit here and see what else they're talking about, because it's like an hour-long testimony.
Talk with you first and see if this is your recollection of how it happened.
Your Honor, I think this is improper. She should just ask her what happened. Then if she testified contrary to that earlier, then she cross-examines her with the deposition.
And what's the objection?
Improper use of deposition testimony.
It's a party under Rule 32. It can be used for any purpose. You may
Okay.
proceed.
Thank you. You were going along relatively slowly. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to kind of ask you a couple
Sure.
questions. So let me know if anything I say is not accurate.
Okay.
So you're going down relatively slowly when all of a sudden you heard a strange rustling noise behind you.
Yes.
Okay. And you felt like a rush of air in a strange way.
Yes.
Okay. And two skis slid in between my skis.
That's correct.
And all of a sudden there was a body from the whole front of a body pressing into my back.
That's right.
Okay. Like, we'll talk about this in a minute. And there was a man behind me pressing into me. How did you know it was a man?
Because he was making some strange noises that sounded male, and he was large. So I assumed it was a male.
Okay, he was large.
I felt all my back
Okay.
pressing.
Okay. All right. There was a man pressing behind me, pressing into me.
Mhm.
I was extremely upset.
Well, I was confused at first, and I didn't know exactly what was happening. It's a very strange thing to happen on a ski slope. And then
I agree.
I froze, and I would say I got very upset a couple seconds later.
Okay. Let me just continue on here. I just want to make sure that I got this all right. I didn't know if it was an intentional assault of a sexual nature.
Right.
Okay. Was he grinding and thrusting or something, or just the noises? What made you think it was a sexual assault?
So that was a quick thought that went through my head when I was trying to reconcile what was happening. I was skiing, and two skis came between my skis, forcing my legs apart, and then there was a body pressing against me, and there was a very strange grunting noise. So my brain was trying to make sense of what was happening.
Wow, that's really, really graphic, right? And I can understand, like, okay, as a woman, right, you're just going along, and then all of a sudden, you know, like a body comes on top of you. I think, and especially as a very famous actress in Hollywood who's always followed or chased by the paparazzi, she's probably very, very conscientious about her private space. And so for someone to come on her kind of suddenly, I could understand why she was surprised and then angry that someone did that, because I would imagine, remember, she had a stalker for 10 years, right? She was probably constantly in fear. And as a woman, you know, who's been mugged before going to her car, like, you know, women, we're just always thinking about our safety, and having a stalker for 10 years, I would imagine that she, you know, was probably just like so upset at that moment that someone was on top of her. And then, like, he was making noises. I actually hadn't heard that part before. That just seemed very strange. And I do think she is, you know, very, I trust her. And William, you're probably right. Whenever I talk to clients about depositions or whatnot, I'm always like, keep it short, answer exactly what is asked of you. If you can say yes or no, that would be ideal. Okay, let's keep watching, because this is fascinating.
I thought, is this a practical joke? Is someone like doing something perverted? This is really, really strange. My mind was going very, very quickly, and I was trying to ascertain what was happening.
Okay. I think you said, I didn't know if it was an accident, but he was groaning and grunting in a very disturbing way.
Yes, there was a sort of groan coming out of his mouth.
Okay. Then you said, I froze.
Yes.
We kept skiing.
Right.
We went to the right.
Yes.
We came crashing down together.
That's right.
Okay. You said this man was behind me on the mountain. My knee and our skis were still sort of tangled up.
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Our bodies were almost spooning, and I moved away quickly.
Yes.
And my knee splayed open, and I was completely in shock.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to stop there.
Okay.
And if the court and Ms. Paltrow, if you don't mind, since again, when we did this over Zoom, would you mind stepping down and us kind of acting this out a little bit so I could get a good feel?
Let's see, can we approach Your Honor?
Sure.
I kind of heard about this happening. It just sounds so strange. Like, what is this attorney trying to do? I think it ended up being no, because I think the attorney then tries to like act it out herself. I think I saw that part. Fast forward.
Yes.
Go ahead and tell me how to move them.
I think, skiing down, going to the right.
Okay. So
Okay.
about,
Probably a little bit further apart.
okay, about like that.
And then 2 skis slide slowly between my skis.
All right. So my feet are about, what, a foot apart? Would you say 18 inches?
Probably.
Okay. And you believe that 2 skis slid right between.
That is correct.
Okay. And so all of a sudden you see these 2 skis coming in between your legs. I would have freaked out too.
And I did.
Okay. So the skis are coming. How far did the skis get in between your legs before you guys fell?
His body pressed up into my back.
Okay.
So I froze. I don't know exactly how far the skis would have come through,
Okay.
because then I noticed his body pressing against my back.
Okay.
And then it was probably a few good seconds, and then we fell to the right. Somebody must have caught an edge.
Okay. So when you froze and you're skiing together, I think you said at one point it was like you were spooning.
Well, when we fell down, I fell on his body, he fell on the ground, and so it was kind of like a spoon on the ground.
Okay. So
Your Honor, the defendant has come into well of the court here. Why can't we see it to the plaintiff testify?
I think it's fine.
okay. Well, now that Mr. Sanderson is here, and I don't need you to do anything, Terry, but just for comparison's sake, I'm in my heels. We're about the same height, about 5'5" with heels.
It's roughly.
Oh, tell me I'm taller, please. Okay.
Oh my God.
So we've got Mr. Sanderson that's about 5'5" that comes in back of you, and you said that you felt something huge. What was your word behind
just
you?
a big body.
A big body. All right. And was it just the front of his body that touched the back of your body?
What else would it be?
I couldn't see in the back of my head,
Sure.
but I felt
Yes,
a body
she was in front,
press
right?
against my back.
But there was no grabbing, like he didn't like grab your waist or grab your
No,
arms?
not at all. No,
Nothing like that.
nothing.
Okay. All right. So skis slide between, you kind of freeze, you end up, maybe your skis kind of cross, you end up going down. Would you agree that Mr. Sanderson fell to the ground and then you fell on top?
I don't know if it was simultaneous. I don't remember.
Okay. But you didn't fall and hit the ground, correct?
I don't remember exactly where I hit,
Okay.
but I fell over
All right. And
with Mr. Sanderson.
right. And Mr. Sanderson fell and hit the ground.
Yes.
All right. So going back here, you guys are on the ground. Now you realize, right? You're not saying to the jury that this was in any way, shape, or form a sexual assault.
I am not saying that.
Okay.
I'm just saying what went through my mind for a split second when it was happening.
All right, great. So you're down on the ground, and then you started yelling at him.
I don't remember if I started yelling at him while I was on the ground. I remember pushing away because I was very upset and it was still very strange to me what had happened. And I pushed down the hill and I turned around and I yelled at him.
Okay. Did you scream before you went down?
I don't think so.
Okay. So if others heard a scream, you wouldn't, that wasn't you?
No, I froze. When he slid between my skis, I absolutely froze. And I don't remember yelling or screaming until I was very angry at what had happened.
Okay. And so you guys are on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said to him, I think you don't know if you were up or if you were still on the ground, but he was still on the ground, right?
Yes.
When you said, "What are you doing?"
Yes.
Okay. Like, why did you do that?
Yes.
And he said, "I think you skied into me."
Yes.
And that's when you were furious and said, "You skied directly into my effing back at the
Sorry.
top of your lungs."
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I apologize for my bad language.
And well, in fact, you were screaming that so hard, you were worried that Moses was hearing you.
Yes.
Okay. And after you were screaming to him, isn't that when Mr. Sanderson said, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry"?
He said, I said, "You skied directly into my effing back." And he said, "Oh, sorry, I'm sorry."
Right. And that was you screaming at him while he's on the ground still, right?
I was yelling at him.
Pretty loud. Pretty forceful.
Okay. I do think it's interesting that he said, "I'm sorry," and they never, plaintiff isn't trying to fight that, right? And isn't it weird if someone, according to him, like mows you down, that you're saying sorry? And by the way, he said he was unconscious for 5 minutes. So how does this like add up? Like, how is it that he was able to say sorry to her in that split second? And then, he was able to say sorry to her. Like, it's just like, there are facts of this story that just doesn't add up. I feel like her story has remained the same. And that's the thing with, I think, people when they tell the truth, like it doesn't seem to change that much. But people who aren't telling the truth, like their stories, the facts and things seem to change over time because they're not telling the truth, right? That's why people always say, well, like just tell the truth because it's easier to remember that way, right? When you lie, like the facts kind of change. So I think it's very interesting. Look, she knows that's probably cussing at someone is not nice. I mean, she said sorry for using a bad word, but I think this further supports her story that he ran into her, right? I don't know. Like if I ran someone down, I would say I'm sorry. Like that's just like that's just like kind of like human instinct. When you do something terribly wrong, you say I'm sorry. So tell me what you think in the chat. Do you guys believe her? Or do you believe his story? And, remember to kind of recap people who weren't here earlier. I mean, his daughters have basically wish that he didn't file this lawsuit because they think he's obsessed. There are inconsistencies as to whether his behavior really has changed because they are saying that he was kind of short-tempered and impatient before. I mean, yes, there are indications that he was a good dad. Some of these things where he says that his memory is bad, I think that could just happen to people who are aging, right? He's 75. I mean, dementia does happen to people who are older in their 60s and 70s. I mean, I think it happens even earlier, right? So I'm interested in seeing what happens tomorrow when he testifies, when the defense experts testify, because right now in this moment, I really seem to, I trust her side of the story a little more than his side of the story.
I was pretty upset.
Right? You're
Yeah.
small but mighty. Actually, you're not that small. So when he said, I'm sorry, would you agree that he kind of mumbled it?
Yes.
All right. And then you remember Eric came over, Eric Christensen.
Yes.
Who was Moses's instructor.
Correct.
Okay. And that was when you were concerned that, oh gosh, Moses is close by. He's hearing me yell obscenities at this man.
Which is not my custom.
Right. And I think you said that. And at some point, the man stood up and we were all sort of talking.
Yes.
What conversation did you have with Mr. Sanderson standing up?
I wasn't having a conversation with him. Eric was helping him up and asking if he was okay.
Okay. Eric eventually yanked him up, right? He pulled him up.
He helped him up.
Okay. He didn't get up on his own accord.
He helped him.
And were you still standing right there when he helped him?
I believe I was, yes.
You sure you hadn't skied down a little bit?
I might have skied down a little bit. My son was down a little bit, and my now husband came over at some point.
Okay.
I remember moving away from Mr. Sanderson after he collided into me and we hit the ground.
Okay. And do you remember, we've heard from Craig Ramone, he was the first individual who testified. Do you remember him coming to the scene?
I do not.
You don't remember him at all?
No,
You don't remember him being there or asking you, are you okay?
I do not.
Okay. You don't remember him asking Terry if he was okay?
I don't recall.
All right. And then I think what you've said is Eric told you, I'm going to handle this. And that's what I think you've said people do. They handle things for you.
I don't believe I said that.
You've never said that?
I believe what I said was in the acting world, that's a world of representatives. So you have an agent who represents you. And so if they say, I'm going to provide information, you allow somebody to represent you. So when Eric, as an accredited Deer Valley ski instructor, said to me, I'll fill out the paperwork, he knew also that my daughter was at the bottom waiting for me to come for lunch or at the lunch place.
And so Mr. Christensen handled it for you.
Mr. Christensen stayed and filled out the report, made sure Mr. Sanderson was okay.
Okay, so here what they're trying to do is they're trying to paint her as this kind of entitled actress, right, who has things handled for her. And honestly, there might be some truth to that, but she's also a mom with her 2 kids down the hill and no one's with them. Like, believe me, I would be going down towards my kids, right? And even I'm certainly not a Hollywood actor. Like, that's what I would be doing. Like, if my ski instructor who I had hired for the day, even if it wasn't like, even if it was like a emergency person who just came over and said, oh yeah, like, go ahead. We'll take care of this. Go to your kids. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? Like, if she wasn't an actress, would anybody fault her for wanting to get to her kids? I mean, her kids at the time, 6 years ago, I think, and I don't know exactly, I think her son was like maybe 8, right? 7 or 8. And her daughter maybe was a few years older. I mean, I would not, be okay with my kid being down the hill by themselves at age 8 or 10, right? So I think they're just trying to paint her in a really bad light, and that's kind of annoying me. Yeah, it's not. It's not relevant at all. Yeah, I think you're right. There have been so many memes about her putting her in a bad light, almost like a smear campaign. And listening to you in this thing more fully, I trust her a bit more too. I mean, I think she, to me, sounds like a credible witness, right? She's just telling her story. Her story hasn't changed. I think, as humans, right? And her attorney asked the jury to use their common sense, right? Like, what is your common sense here? Like, her story has not changed. Like, she got upset because somebody plowed into her and she screamed at him. And he's the one with the inconsistencies, right? Was he out for 5 to 8 minutes? Was he down? How was it that he even knew what she said or didn't say, or the fact that she left him, kind of the hit and run. It just seems all very inconsistent. And the witness, Ramon, was not credible to me. I mean, I didn't watch his whole testimony. If any of you watched it, let me know what you think. But you know, she had that laugh. Like, he was really inconsistent. And I think it's interesting how you know, we'll hear his testimony, right? He'll probably testify tomorrow, and we'll hear what he says.
And said to me, "You can go ahead."
Okay. How do you know that if you weren't there?
Because he told me.
Okay. That's what he told you,
Yes.
but you weren't there to see it.
He told you you can leave. He wasn't there. Objective form. I don't understand. the question.
Sustain. Go ahead with your questions.
You weren't there when the paperwork or the exchange of information was given. Fair?
Fair.
All right. And would you agree that Mr. Christensen did not see the incident, didn't see the collision?
Correct.
Okay.
He just saw us right afterwards.
Right. And in fact, nobody from Deer Valley saw the collision.
Correct.
Your kids didn't see the collision.
That's right.
Okay. The only person that, and you may not be aware of this, the only person who says that they saw the collision was Mr. Ramon.
Yes.
Okay. The way you answer that makes me think that you don't believe that he saw it.
I did not believe his testimony.
Do you believe that he saw the collision?
No. I don't believe that he saw what he thinks he saw.
Ms. Paltrow, why would he lie?
This is a man.
Goes to motive, Your Honor. But, perhaps that's not the right objection under the rules, so let me be quiet and withdraw my objection.
Can you answer it?
He said he was at 40 feet away and colorblind. I don't know how he can be positive about what he saw, especially with how much he changed his story.
Well, what does colorblind have to do with anything? My husband's colorblind. We tease him all the time that he can't tell red or green. But what does that have to do with not seeing who hit who?
Well, if you have two people in ski gear with helmets on and you're 40 plus feet away, I'm not sure how you can discern who is who.
Okay, well.
And I can tell you that he didn't, because Mr. Sanderson categorically hit me on that ski slope, and that is the truth.
And I'm sure that that's what you believe. I'm not saying
because it's the truth.
I'm not saying that.
Let's get a question.
So you and Mr. Sanderson, if you're almost 5'10", Terry's 5'5", pushing it.
Your Honor, that's not in evidence.
Counsel, you'll have an opportunity to redirect or to direct examine. So go ahead.
If you two stood next to each other, do you think that somebody would confuse the two of you?
I don't know. I'm telling you what happened.
Okay. All right. So you're screaming at Terry, worried that Moses hears you. You admit that you were shaken up.
Yes.
Okay. You don't recall Mr. Ramon being there?
I do not.
Or asking you if you were okay?
I do not.
Did anybody ask you if you were okay?
I remember Eric Christensen asking me if I was okay, and Brad, my now husband, asking me if I was okay.
Okay. And when you talked to Brad, he was down further, right?
Yes.
Down with Moses. So none of that took place where my client was.
He came over to me after the fall.
Okay. And I just want to make sure you don't have any kind of medical training.
No.
Okay. You don't know what injuries Mr. Sanderson did or did not sustain in the accident?
I do not.
Okay. Are you aware now that you've sat here the last 3 days that he did sustain 4 broken ribs?
Yes.
Okay. Aware that he sustained a concussion?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that he had to be taken down on a toboggan?
So we should be clear, like, does she know as a result of this testimony, or does she know personally?
Would you clarify your question?
Yeah, sure. How did you learn that he broke 4 ribs?
Through all of this.
Okay, and to make it clear, I don't want to find out anything that your lawyers told you. That's attorney-client privilege. We can't. So anytime I'm asking you, I don't want you to tell me what your lawyers have told you.
Okay.
Through the court proceedings, is that fair?
That's fair.
All right. You learned that Mr. Sanderson broke 4 ribs.
Yes.
Okay, and that he sustained a concussion.
Correct.
Okay, that he was taken down on toboggan.
Yes.
Did you learn of that day?
No.
Did you inquire?
What is your name again? Sorry. Kristen?
Yes.
Sorry, I was going to say, Kristen,
That's all right.
I think you have to keep in mind when you're the victim of a crash, right? Your psychology is not necessarily thinking about the person who perpetrated it.
So the answer to my question is no, you did not inquire.
I did not.
Okay. Did you ever ask, hey, how was that guy that ran into the back of me? Is he okay? Did you ever ask anybody from Deer Valley about that?
I did not, because at the time I did not know that he had sustained injuries like that. I thought it was very minor on the day.
And you didn't stick around long enough to find that out.
I stuck around long enough for him to say he was okay, to stand up, that he told Mr. Christensen he was okay.
And when he was helped up by Mr. Christensen, again, you weren't right there. You were down a ways.
Just a few feet down, yes.
Okay. Could you tell if Mr. Sanderson was still dazed or unsteady on his feet?
I could not. I don't know.
Okay. And again, you didn't leave your name, address, contact information. You didn't fill out any paperwork in connection with this accident.
Eric did on my behalf.
Right, but I'm asking about you personally.
So it has been asked and answered.
Sustained.
Okay. After the incident, you skied down, went to lunch, and then my understanding is you got a massage.
So after the accident, I met all the rest of the kids at lunch. We all gathered, we had lunch, and I still felt very shaky, and my knee was bothering me, my back was bothering me, so I decided to go in early and get a massage.
Okay. You never did seek any kind of medical treatment for your knee or your back?
No.
Okay. Now, at the scene, before you skied down and had lunch, there was no indication that Mr. Sanderson knew who you were. Is that fair?
I don't know.
Okay.
So, William, you make a great point. And by the way, so I think tomorrow, her husband, her daughter, and her son are flying in to Park City, I believe, to testify. I think her attorney stated as much Friday afternoon when he was trying to get timing figured out for making sure that Terry Sanderson would be done in time so that they would have enough time for the kids and for Brad, her husband, to testify, because her daughter, I believe, is missing school. So they're trying to, I think, limit how many days of school she has to miss. So I think they're going to tell their side of the story as to what they saw. I mean, you know, Terry had his witness, and now Gwyneth will have her witnesses who are all there. And we'll see, you know, what they say. Let's kind of fast forward to her attorney. Oh, actually, her attorney is kind of a mess, to be honest. Let me see. Let's hear her attorney for a second and see what he says. They weren't prepared. Like that's the point. They did not know that they were going to call Gwyneth on Friday, because they were supposed to, I think, call Terry Sanderson on Friday, rest their case, and then let the defense present their case next week. So let's see what
I didn't even have the motions around because we've already had it granted. So why would we need to go dig and find out what our motion said? So, Your Honor, Ramon didn't testify that she looked clumsy, for instance. Ms. Paltrow never says, did not say, I've never been clumsy. Anyway, you've ruled, and we're in deja vu here.
I've ruled, I mean, under Rule 404, evidence of a person's character or character trait is not admissible to prove that on a particular occasion the person acted in conformity with the character or trait. And under the court's motion in limine decision, it indicates on page 13, motion 14 pertains to her public appearances and previous unrelated injuries. That's the previous instances of that I believe that Ms. Van Orman's referring to. And the court's order says it appears the plaintiff does not intend to inquire into the areas covered by these motions, and the motions are therefore granted. The ruling will be revisited if the defendant opens the door. If that occurs and the plaintiff wishes to present any of the categories of evidence, he must first address this with the court out of the presence of the jury. And I guess there wasn't any request. I mean, is that what your motion that is pending relates to, that you want a clarification?
No, that's regarding the ski expert.
Okay.
But what about prior inconsistent statements, Your Honor? I'm entitled to ask her if she's testified that she's lied under oath a number of times, and I want to be able
Your Honor,
to show the jury that
Sanderson, I want it withdrawn this moment.
Well,
she has testified
just a moment.
inconsistent.
Just a moment. Just a moment.
I'm not gonna say
Well, counsel, I'm talking, okay? Have a seat. Have a seat. Okay, the statement that you just made, do you want to rephrase that?
Yes, absolutely. She has made prior inconsistent statements. During her deposition, Ms. Paltrow was asked a number of times, 3, 4, 5 times.
That may be on this issue. That
Yes.
may be, but to me, without some witness tying it into the essential elements of this case, or the essential issues in this case, I see it as collateral impeachment. So,
Even the fact that Mr. Ramon has testified that she skied into Mr. Sanderson, as in she is also walking into walls, etc.
the ruling was, my understanding was that the plaintiff was not going to inquire into the areas covered by the motions, which included that the previous unrelated injuries or other instances of conduct. So I'm going to stand by my ruling. I haven't revisited it. I think it's a good ruling.
And I'd like an apology, Your Honor.
There was, and I am sorry, all I'm saying, there were inconsistent statements. I am not trying to slander Ms. Paltrow nor say that she's lying by any which way, form.
You did say she was lying under oath.
Okay, thank you.
I do like this judge. I think he's very fair. I think he's trying to be, keeping this whole circus under control. And it's he is very fair. I think he's very smart. I do think he is pro plaintiff side, which I think some judges are, right? I mean, judges, I think, want to make sure that plaintiffs have a forum to bring their cases. And so, from what I've seen here and in Alec Murdoch, certainly there is a little bit of more leeway they give to the plaintiff side. And I do like him. And this is just like a soap opera of a trial that's happening right now. Yeah, I mean, but she clearly said that you were lying, you perjured herself. I think that's what she said. But she did say you lied, and I'm not sure if the jury's still there. I think the jury is there. Wow, it is late. Maybe are there people coming in from Europe? I mean, I saw a bunch of people join. So I think I'm going to call it a day here. Well, actually, hold on. Let's go a little further. What else does she say here?
I'm in my 50s.
Did you stop skiing for a while?
I did.
Rewind.
On the day at issue?
I did before the accident.
Okay. And it's hard to tell who the 9-year-old is there.
Thank you.
Are you on the right or left?
I'm on the right.
And Moses is on the left?
Yes.
And are you going up the ski lift?
It looks like it.
This is Defense 86. If we haven't moved for its admission, I would like to do so.
Defendant's 86 is received.
And I notice, do you have a helmet on there
I do.
and goggles?
Yes.
Did you always that day while on the slopes?
Yes.
Mr. Ramon testified, for instance, you were not wearing a helmet or goggles or any face covering whatsoever. A true or it's not true?
I think you can see the evidence that I was wearing a helmet and goggles.
So answer my question, please.
Sorry.
Is it true or not true that at the time of the collision and in the aftermath, you were or were not wearing a helmet
I was.
and goggles?
Correct.
I think what they're trying to do here is to prove that the witness Ramon could not have known that it was Gwyneth Paltrow. I think that's what he said right as after the accident was that, did you know that was Gwyneth Paltrow? So again, that's an inconsistency. So it's hard to know, like, how did they know that it was her because she had her helmet and goggle? I think that's what her attorney is trying to clarify right now. How is it that Ramon knew that it was her? Unless they saw her at the resort beforehand, I just don't know.
Did you ski at all that day without a helmet?
No.
Is that for anonymity? I'm saying it wrong.
Anonymity.
Thanks for saying that. And also for safety or both or what?
It's for safety primarily, but yes, I like to, when I'm skiing, try to keep a low profile.
You were asked about, well, let me back up even further.
Okay.
You told me you learned to ski at Alta.
I did, actually.
Tell me a little about that.
My father was, he loved skiing, and he had learned later in life. And so he was determined for my brother and I to learn how to ski when we were young. And he used to do these really sweet one-on-one ski trips with us where he would take us to various destinations, and Alta was one of them.
And then he died young, true?
Unfortunately,
And
yes.
did you stop in his 50s? That's how I'm in my 50s, but
I'm in
did
my
you-
50s.
did you
It's very
stop
young.
skiing for a while?
I did. I was pretty devastated by his death, and just being in the ski resort and on a chairlift, it was difficult for me. So I avoided it for a few years until I had my own kids, and then I heard his voice in my head thinking I should teach them how to ski.
And Brad Falchuk, you were dating him at the time.
Yes.
And now married to him.
I know,
Yes.
David.
Were
I
you
agree. I
skiing with
can't
the
stop watching.
Coldplay
people
guy,
talk
according to
I'm like,
Ma-
I didn't watch
Ramon?
all of this.
No,
I'm
no.
captivated
Who's
right
the
now.
Coldplay guy?
The Coldplay guy, I believe, he's referring to my first husband, Chris Martin. He's the singer, and he's a guitar player and a piano player in the band Coldplay.
We know
And
who he is.
did this
I'm a big fan. But okay.
kind of blending of the family's trip have some significance to you?
Yes, this was
Let's go.
this
for
was
it.
a significant
Where
trip.
are these
So
chats?
we went down Bandana. So you'd already been down that very, oh, my board. Gonna get my board in case this is better copy. All right. Okay, cool. Which one's you, on the right or left? Do you know? The green?
Eric is the green and I'm the white.
Okay, cool. We should take north side up, question mark. That's you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go back out. And in the afternoon, let's go with the, okay, let's keep going down. Oh, let's go Ruby left. So you're coordinating a little bit
Yes.
on the mountain in real time, correct?
Yes.
And then, sorry, James, I'm testing you out here. Moses wants to know if you are still skiing and where. All right, so it's 2:29,
Mm-hmm.
and this is, no one's thinking lawsuit yet, right?
No.
And that's you on the left with the G, and it
Yes.
says, can you read it?
It says, I came in. That guy sort of hurt me. I'm going to get a massage at 3. Gigi is here if he wants to come.
Okay, Gigi was helping with the kids.
Yeah, Gigi was our babysitter.
All right. Did you go in earlier because you had been hit?
I did, yes.
Did you personally pay for a ski pass at Deer Valley?
I did.
And was it a full day pass?
It was.
And was it, is this monetary difference between the full day pass and the half day pass more than $1?
It is.
So right now they're trying to set, how much she lost for the day, which I think, I don't know, it's not totally persuasive to me because I think it comes out to like $900 for the day. I think the lessons and the ski lift and everything. I mean, that's very expensive. Skiing is just very expensive. So they're trying to prove that, her damages are more than $1 for the day, right? That she lost, half of the day of skiing in the lessons, and they're just trying to prove damages. I think you actually do have to do that in a case. You have to prove both sides. You have to prove your damages in order to justify what you're asking for. And their point is she's only countersued for $1 because it's more for like the principal, but she's also asking for attorney's fees, which I think later on the woman comes back and asks about it. So here's this part, I think.
Said when I asked you questions earlier, nobody was in front of you.
Nobody was directly in front of me, no.
Okay. Were there people in your vision in front of you?
There were people on the run.
Okay. It was crowded.
It was, I think it was moderately crowded on that day.
Okay. And some of the people were your daughter and Carrie Oakes down below, and your son and Eric Christensen to the left and up a little bit.
I believe so.
Okay. And you've mentioned that Mr. Christensen was kind and patient with your son.
He was.
Okay.
Very much so.
All right. You did pay him a lot and tip him well.
I paid Deer Valley Resort. I don't know what the resort pays their instructors, so that would be a question for them.
Do you tip Mr. Christensen well?
I hope so.
Okay. Me too. But I would hope also if you're going to use this, you'd had him as an instructor before, right?
Yes.
Okay. You would expect him to be kind and patient with your son.
Well, he was kind and patient the first time, which is why we asked to have him again.
Okay, great. You said that you stuck around, but while you stuck around, you never asked Mr. Sanderson if he was okay.
Correct, because he had hit me and I was very upset.
All right. You still didn't think it would be appropriate to ask somebody if they're all right?
Mr. Christensen asked if he was okay, and he said he was. Meaning Mr. Sanderson.
I think you said that he mumbled it.
He said, I'm okay.
Do you see he's smirking back there too? I mean, everyone's saying she's smirking. I think for some reason both sides are smirking. I don't know why they're smirking. He is weirdly, I mean, if you watch the whole thing, like enjoying himself, it's very weird. And remember, he has not been in court the entire week. I mean, he has been not sitting there the whole time like Gwyneth Paltrow has. I think that's going to hurt him in front of a jury. The fact that the jury has gathered they're going to be there for over 8 days on his behalf because he's brought this case, right? And he has not sat there for 90% of the time. I think that she's trying to make, yes, her asking if she asked Sanderson if he was okay is trying to make her look bad. But honestly, like somebody asked earlier, does hit and run apply to like people? I think hit and run really applies to car accidents, right? And let's say if you were in an accident and someone hit you really hard, I don't know, you might be very angry. Like, I don't know, like, would you ask if they're okay? Maybe. I have no idea, but she definitely is trying to just make her look bad right now. We're almost
You've
done.
been asked a number of questions about
Only like
um,
2 minutes left.
the dollar.
Mhm.
You were asked in your deposition, were you not, to your understanding, you're making a claim for the sum of $1 as a symbolic loss, right?
Yes,
And you said correct. Yes?
that's right.
Okay. And then I also asked you in your deposition, are you telling me now you're making more than the sum of $1? Do you remember what your response was?
I don't remember.
You said no. That's not the case though, is it?
Your Honor, this is.
It's a yes or no.
That's moved to, that's an improper question. She gave the answer.
Overruled.
It's a yes or no. Are you making a claim more than $1 in this case?
Now I am, yes.
Thank you. No other questions.
Mr. Owens?
And I do think people smirk when they're like uncomfortable, right? Like, I mean, she kind of like.
What's changed between now and when I took your deposition in 2020?
What do you mean?
Well, in 2020, you said, no, I'm not. Now you said, now you are. What's changed?
Well, you're making so for me, as I said, there's a delineation between the $1 that I would receive and the lawyer's fees being reimbursed, which is not.
Okay, so then you're not changing your position.
No.
Okay, so you've always been seeking more than $1.
At the time of the deposition, I was seeking $1 for myself. And I don't recall at the time of the deposition if we were also asking fees reimbursement.
Well, I'll represent to you that that was pled in the counterclaim. I could show you a copy if you'd like.
I'm sure.
Do you disagree with that?
Do I disagree with?
That in the counterclaim where you have sued how I got involved on this case,
Yes.
that you had asked for $1 plus attorney's fees?
I am asking for $1 plus of attorney's fees for that they're being paid.
And from day one since you filed the counterclaim against Mr. Sanderson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so let's stop sharing there. Okay, so that's the end of her testimony. That was the end of Friday. I think after they dismissed the jury, they kind of talk about scheduling, and her attorney was trying to figure out if, actually, I think what he was trying to ask was, could her kids testify on Monday, and then Terry Sanderson, because he lives here and he's going to be here, testify at the very end. And I think plaintiffs push back. So I think Terry Sanderson is supposed to testify Monday morning, and then her kids will testify after that. I think that it's going to be really interesting. We'll, watch. I'll watch, and maybe I'll come back in a couple of nights if you guys are interested. I mean, I can't do a live stream during the day because I work, but I can come back at night if you guys are interested in me kind of doing a recap, sort of in the same way, because there are, Emily D. Baker is amazing. If you want to go watch her do her live, like she does gavel to gavel, and she does a great job at that. So you guys can watch her, or you can come back and I can do like a quick, I can do a recap and tell you guys what's happening. If you guys are interested, let me know. I mean, I dropped my $1 billion lawsuit against financial YouTubers today. So please make sure to catch that. I actually think that my video touches upon a couple of points that like CoffeeZilla didn't. He made a great video about it, about how he had legal ego speak and how the lawsuit probably isn't going to go forward. And I probably agree with that, because it's hard to claim that these influencers were agents of FTX, but I think the SEC is going to be able to come after them. And I haven't heard anybody else talk about that. And Erica Kohlberg, who is an attorney in that group of defendants, CoffeeZilla didn't mention her. She owns the creators agency that represents all these financial influencers. And I truly believe that they had a duty to perform due diligence in a way that maybe the influencers didn't. I think they still should have, right? I think everyone should hold them more accountable than Larry David or Tom Brady, right? Because they're just celebrities, but people who are on YouTube giving financial advice, touting themselves to be financial experts, should perform due diligence. And the fact that Kevin thinks that the people who, bought the crypto are the ones who are at fault. I mean, that just makes me like, it's so gross. Like, he just takes no responsibility, sort of like Logan Paul when I did my video about his crypto zoo scam. So it's just like, I, as an attorney, want to always protect the voiceless and the powerless. So when I see people scamming or taking advantage of other people, it just makes me really upset. So yes, this was so fun. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for your patience. As I said, my kiddo was not feeling well. And so he woke up and I was like trying to get him back to bed again. But this was so fun. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me know, if there are other videos you guys would like me to cover. Oh, I think I'm going to do the Victoria Alfonso story. I don't know if you guys have heard that. She was just fired from Marvel, and she has been one of the top 3 executives at Marvel for like 17 years. The fact that they fired her, and that the attorney who's taking her case, Patty Glazer, is one of the top litigators in Hollywood. She's also representing Catherine McCarthy, which was my last video about Lucasfilms getting sued for wrongful termination. Here's the thing. Lawyers typically, especially very, very famous kind of high level lawyers, won't take on a case if they don't feel like there's a solid case to be had here. I think Victoria, as a, outspoken advocate, she is a lesbian, she is a Latina, she really has been ruffling feathers at Disney. She went after, I think, DeSantis in Florida, telling him to, to stand up for gay rights. And I think she's amazing, but I think she's ruffling a lot of feathers. And so Disney is saying that they're firing her because of her doing competing work, which I believe they gave her permission to do that, because it's not like they would have found out about her working on a film, months and months after the fact. I mean, I think it premiered at Venice Film Festival last September. So I am going to make a video on that. I think it's very interesting. I think there's definitely some discrimination, claims that will be disclosed by her attorney. So I'm going to be doing that. But thank you so much for joining me. This was so fun. I am trying to do lives more consistently now, because I'm trying to catch kind of breaking stories as they're happening, because when it goes to my editor and we do rounds of editing, it takes a week sometimes. And sometimes it's just, the story is kind of old by the time I get to it. So I'm trying to do these lives. So thank you so much for joining me. And I will see you guys soon, maybe in a few days, for a recap of the Gwyneth Paltrow trial, which I'm super, super interested in right now. So thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys soon. Okay, bye.